Now let's head over to our Abuja studios for a chat with our first guest of today, Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi. Now, as the November 16th governorship elections in Bayelsa and Kogi states draw near, all eyes are on the Independent National Electoral Commission right now, and the electoral umpire is saddled with organizing elections in Nigeria. Now, too many Nigerians, if not all, feel the successes or the failures of this electoral contest will depend largely on INEC's readiness to allow for free, fair and credible polls in the affected states. And it's needless to say that November 16th is going to be another test for INEC. So joining us now from our Arise Abuja studios for a chat about this and more is Rotimi Oyekanmi, the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman. Welcome to the morning show, sir.
Hi, Rotimi. Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
good morning.
Welcome to the morning show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and thank you too for honoring our invitation. Now, INEC has been saying in the last few weeks, United Information and Voter Education, that INEC sees the coming gubernatorial elections and senatorial election in Kogi State as a litmus test. But how prepared is INEC?
Thank you so much. Well, we are always talking about the litmus test, but we've been having this test and we've been passing so far so good. Remember that we issued in May, the second timetable and schedule of activities after we rescheduled the election due to the appeal by the Bayelsa State government at that time, and 14 items were listed. I'm happy to report that 12 out of the 14 items have now been completed, and we have just 2 items remaining, which is the last day for campaign, which will be 14th of November, and then the election itself. Ad hoc staff. We have trained all the ad hoc staff needed for the elections. And the 2019 general elections, the hitches that we noticed and the recommendations that were given by various stakeholders. We had internal meetings, we had meetings with external stakeholders, and we looked at all those challenges, especially the ones that concern the ad hoc staff, the issue of the smart card reader, ballot papers, and all of that. Those ones have been taken care of. In fact, we also printed hard copies and even soft copies of the manual so that those that were trained can go over and revise those things that they were taught in the coming days. Okay. Security is an issue, and I'm happy to report that just last Friday we had a meeting with the security agencies, and we had the Inspector General of Police assuring Nigerians, assuring the good people of the 2 states that the police is ready and they are deploying the required number of personnel to man with a code of conduct. So I don't think there will be any fear of voters not having access to the polling unit or accredited observers not having access to collation center this time. So we are ready to go, hoping that the good people of these 2 states will come out, and the undertaking given by the political actors that they are for the peaceful conduct of the election will be obeyed, and of course everybody is looking at them, because the conduct of election depends not only on INEC. We can prepare, we can do all sorts of things, but if there are other factors that interfere with the process, then it will be an issue.
Okay, Mr. Oyekanmi, you sound very positive about the upcoming elections, but we all know that in practical terms, things may not necessarily be as smooth as they are being made out to seem like. Now, a couple months ago on the show, we had the INEC chairman of Voters Education joining us to discuss upcoming problems that may occur with these elections. And I had put a point across to him about the deployment of technology for the elections and how we can start to integrate technology into our electoral system and into the INEC institution to aid security forces like the police at polling units, and also because intelligence gathering is the #1 way to try and ensure that you can achieve free, fair and credible elections one day. What deployment of technology can we see coming to the Kogi and Bayelsa state elections this month, if any?
Well, technology is good. But as you know, when it comes to electronic transmission of results, INEC will not be doing that because the law, as we have it today, does not allow electronic transmission. So it will still be manual. But we are going to deploy technology in terms of
CCTVs, etc. Not what you cannot change in the law, but what INEC can do as an institution to strengthen themselves independently.
Well, you know, the deployment of CCTV will require some funds. You know, there are several polling units in these two states, and if we're going to deploy CCTV, are we going to place the CCTV in each polling unit? That's possible, but that has to be appropriated, and INEC, I'm not sure, has that kind of money. But what is important, of course, is the undertaking and determination, first, of the police and the security agencies that are partnering with INEC to ensure that there is peace and adherence to rules and regulations on election day, and most especially the political actors and their supporters to abide also by the rules and regulations. We are looking forward to that day in this country where we will need to deploy 30,000 police officers and other security agents because we are conducting election. As we see in other climes, that people will be free and joyfully go to the polling unit with their permanent voters card, cast their ballot, and then go home in peace, or even go back to work. We won't even need to lock down the state. We won't say there's no movement. So the attitude of the political actors, if, you know, going by what we have seen before in the two states, but going again by what we have done so far, because we have engaged in several consultations with various stakeholders in these two states, and we have the undertaking. In Kogi, especially, we had a good meeting. We are going back again next week for another meeting. But the first meeting was very good because we had all the candidates for the election, including the governor and other candidates, openly, you know, saying that they are for peace and assuring the people of Kogi State that they will not tolerate any form of thuggery, any form of violence, you know. And the police also assuring that they've been gathering intelligence and they have everything they need to ensure that, you know, we have a peaceful election, with a warning that whoever engages or tries to disrupt the election will have himself or herself to blame. We don't want any violence to happen because we are going to deploy our children that are members of the Youth Service Corps, our own staff too. You know, remember, we have both our domestic and foreign observers. We don't want harm to befall anybody.
Well, we'll go on break shortly, but before we do so, let me ask you, Rotimi, Mahmoud Yakubu, the chairman of INEC, recently said Kogi and Bayelsa states are politically volatile and that thugs were already being mobilized and that there are many flashpoints in Kogi and Bayelsa. Now, does this justify the plan, say in Kogi, for example, to deploy 20,000 policemen and 10,000 civil defense officials? Are we looking forward to another over-militarized, you know, process, either in Kogi or Bayelsa State? What is the plan to make sure that, you know, the thing is not does not become an over-militarized operation? But we'll take a short break. When we return, you can respond to this. Welcome back to the Morning Show here on the Arise News channel. Still with us in our Abuja studio is Rotimi Oyekanmi, Chief Press Secretary to Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, the Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission of Nigeria. Rotimi, before we went on break, I'd asked you a question about the role of security agencies in this coming election in Kogi and Bayelsa State, because the concern in the elections, the general elections earlier in the year, was about, you know, the presence of the military, the, you know, excessive impact or influence or presence of security agencies.
Thank you very much. You are quite right that the INEC chairman made that statement on Friday when we had a meeting with the security agencies. And it's quite a sad development. You know, before now, INEC had carried out its own risk assessment using various tools that we have always used in election monitoring and the environment. And we had some reports which we share with the security agencies. On their own part, the police have also carried out their own risk assessment. And they are experts. They understand this country. The police have been in exam for several years. And due to the peculiar nature of the two states, they know exactly those flashpoints that things are likely to go wrong. And that informed the decision for them to send those numbers that they said they were going to send to Kogi State. But according to the law, according to the way election is supposed to be run, and that point was emphasized by the INEC chairman, deployment will be done in conjunction with INEC. So that's what is going on. The INEC chairman already met with the Inspector General of Police, and we are coordinating with all members of that Inter-Consultative Committee on Election Security, where we coordinate efforts of all agencies, the Navy, the Army, and all the other sister agencies, for us to know how many we require per local government, per polling unit. And because of the nature of this state, Kogi State especially, that informed, like I said, the number that the police undertake to send there. And we hope that all arrangements that have been made with the proactive consultations that we have been doing. Remember, this is the first time in any governorship election that INEC will be having stakeholders meeting twice. We had one a couple of weeks ago where we went to Kogi and met with the principal actors and implored them. We have stepped up voter education activities. Only on Saturday, we had the peace walk in conjunction with the European Union and the European Center for Electoral Support, where we walked around major streets in Lokoja, asking people to ignore or shun violent activities, appealing to the principal actors to let peace reign. We hope that they will listen to us and not cause any havoc on that day.
Okay, and I'd also like to take you up on an allegation, Mr. Oyekanmi, that I'm looking at that was referenced through the PDP National Publicity Secretary, Kola Ologbondiyan, whereby he stated that 205, or some people had recruited 205 APC loyalists that he alleged were being trained at the Muslim Community School in Lokoja to basically come and impersonate NYSC members at polling and electoral offices in the Kogi elections that are coming up. Have INEC looked into these allegations and maybe similar allegations as well that may arise around this current election time that you would hope INEC is looking into and investigating to either debunk or fight against?
Thank you very much. All political parties have direct access to INEC. Apart from the quarterly meetings we hold with them, they are free to contact the INEC chairman at any time and supply information. In fact, we value this sort of information because it's coming from the principal stakeholder and we will investigate. But the PDP did not send this information to us. They preferred to hold a press briefing. But all I want to say is that, at the beginning of this conversation, I told you about the conclusion of the training of ad hoc staff. We know the number of ad hoc staff that we are going to take. We know the number of electoral officers. We know the number of polling units. And we have ID cards that we're going to deploy. And there are guidelines. We have guidelines for conducting the election. There is no way anything outside that architecture will be allowed. So I don't know where the PDP got information from. We'll be very pleased for them to supply with information, and we are going to act on it if we get it.
Well, quickly, still on the ad hoc staff. Recently, Festus Okoye, one of your commissioners, said that, some ad hoc staff had been delisted and that they would not be allowed to ever take part in elections conducted by INEC. He also added that electoral offenders will be put through a trial. That's electoral offenders identified in the last general elections. Where are we with that? Now, talking about ad hoc staff, after the general elections in 2019, some of the stakeholders said, look, INEC should no longer use ad hoc staff because they are part of the problem. Now in Kogi and Bayelsa states, INEC has deployed or is going to deploy about 26,000, ad hoc staff, 16,139 of them in Bayelsa, in Kogi State alone. Now, where are we? I mean, what is INEC doing to make sure that these ad hoc staff do not continue to pose a problem?
Thank you very much. You have raised a number of issues. First, why is it that INEC uses ad hoc staff? The reason is simply that we don't have the numbers to deploy for elections. The total number of staff that INEC have all over the country is a little over 16,000. And from the INEC chairman to the lowest cadre. So it is not possible to deploy those things. In other places, in other countries, you have people volunteering to serve as electoral officers. But we are not yet mature. We've not gotten to that stage in this country where people do that. So we then require other people to help us. And one of the reasons why we take, for instance, members of the National Youth Service Corps is that first, they are graduates, secondly, they are educated, and thirdly, they are on youth service, they are on national service. And they have been extremely useful to us. They have been very, very beneficial to the system. But for the members of the NYSC, there is no way INEC will have succeeded, even by half, so far in all the elections that we have undertaken. Well, you refer to what Festus Okoye said the last time. That is true because, there are some ad hoc staff that we found that they were engaged in inappropriate behavior. And, it's like a saying that out of every 11, there's always a Judas. The important thing is that you have rules and regulations, and when these rules are flouted, anybody that is responsible for flouting those rules will be made to face the sanction. And, if we don't have this ad hoc staff to help us, how are we going to conduct the election? We don't have the numbers. And that's why we do that. We will continue to train them. We'll continue to insist on the right thing. And we should not isolate a few ad hoc staff that behave inappropriately to equate the large number of those that behave appropriately. Now, those who were engaged in malpractices that were arrested during 2019, I'm happy to report that about 2 weeks ago, the police sent some files of these offenders to INEC, about 16 of them, and together we are going to prosecute these people, and Nigerians will be informed about the outcome of that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Oyekanmi. And just very quickly, to round up our discussion here, really and truly, we've been speaking about many problems ingrained in INEC as an institution for years, and a lot of these problems come down to the constitution that INEC cannot change. One of those problems is the fact that we still use a manual system. And yes, we know it's out of INEC's hand to change that system, but INEC can also have a lot of influence in working towards changing that system and electoral reform as well. Really and truly, sir, do you really think it is possible in any way whatsoever to have a free, fair and credible election under a manual process? Just yes or no, really.
Well, there is no system that is perfect, honestly. Our experience has shown that all over the world, take the Israeli election that happened recently.
So
it was declared inconclusive.
Credible election under a manual process.
We've been having free and fair. I'm coming to that. INEC was established to conduct free and fair election. We plan very well. You have no idea the kind of planning that goes into conducting election. So we cannot undermine ourselves. We cannot engage in a wild goose chase. And with the manual process, we have been conducting credible election. And if you look at all the elections we've conducted since 2015, yes, we've conducted about 7 off-season governorship elections.
Okay, Mr. Oyekanmi, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate you, of course, coming on the show this morning. That was a great conversation.